After we got to see Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes finally team up against the Bloodline at Bad Blood, it got me thinking about some dream scenarios in professional wrestling. Of course, a form of that would be a dream match. Now, for the purpose of this video, we'll be focusing on the matches that really aren't possible in terms of occurring anymore, really honing in on the dream aspect of these matches. Now, with that being said, my name is Jose Ramos Jr., and join me on this week's 5 count as I share 5 of my favorite dream matches in professional wrestling. But before we jump into the list, make sure you subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the pro wrestling content that I produce on this channel. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the list. So at number 5, I have Kurt Angle versus Bryan Danielson. In my opinion, 2 of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time. You look at a guy like Kurt Angle, who really was able to adapt to professional wrestling in such a quick fashion. He would win the WWE title in about a year's time on the main roster. Seeing his evolution and how his tenure in WWE differs than that in TNA. He has a wide variety of skills. He's one of the best of all time for a reason. And then you add a guy like Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, who can really have a great match with anyone. Any style, big, small, strong, weak, doesn't matter. These two, I think, if you put them in like an Iron Man match setting, give them 60 minutes, give them 30 minutes just to be safe. You can have a wrestling clinic. The story that can be told about how one is the generations of a pro wrestler and the other is the best in his generation. You combine the two and having these sequences of submissions and technicalities, and I know for a fact that these two wanted to have a match together, but it never worked out in terms of timing. Kurt Angle was in WWE for about 6 years, and around that time Daniel Bryan was going to Ring of Honor. He was competing on the Indies, and then Kurt Angle would go to TNA Wrestling, where Daniel Bryan would appear in WWE, just missing him by a couple years. We did see an interaction between the two in the Greatest Royal Rumble, but that really doesn't count. We all know that. Now that Daniel Bryan moved to AEW and is going by his old name, Bryan Danielson, really his real name actually, it reminds me of how Kurt Angle was able to move over to TNA and expand his matches, expand his catalog of classic matches, and I would have loved to have seen these two go at it in the ring. At number 4, I have kind of one that's really relevant in terms of today's pro wrestling, because we just saw the two step up to one another a couple weeks on Monday Night Raw, and that's Bret Hart versus Gunther. This match, very similar to the Bryan Danielson versus Kurt Angle matchup, I think would be a technical classic. The story that you can tell here: Bret Hart has had matches with the likes of Diesel and Yokozuna and The Undertaker, no stranger to opponents that are much larger than him. The only difference is Gunther moves a lot differently than those 3 that I've previously mentioned. It would be the tale of Bret Hart trying to overcome the larger opponent, the much more physical Gunther. And what I love about Bret Hart is that he's able to sell these maneuvers in a realistic fashion. Of course, we have other professional wrestlers who, when they sell, it comes off a little bit exaggerated, a little cartoony, but Bret Hart really sells every move like it's a devastating blow. I think Gunther and him could put on, again, another classic, very similar in the vein of a Kurt Angle and Bryan Danielson, but telling a different type of story, where it's not so much based off as respect and being the best. This one very much could be a personal level, where Gunther looking up to Bret Hart and not seeing his hero as who he really was, but Bret Hart trying to reestablish that, yes, I am the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. At number 3, I have an interesting pick here. I have Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, it's well documented, I'm not the biggest Hulk Hogan fan there is, but just because of the sheer presence of power, because of the star power, and because of the significance that this match could have. Now, obviously, these are all dream matches, they're not going to happen, but think about if we ever did get Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. We were close in 2002, but it didn't happen. Hulk Hogan, the face of the 80s. Stone Cold, the face of the 90s. 2 contradicting values as well. Hulk Hogan really saying, the say your prayers, eat your vitamins. And then there's Stone Cold, who's anti-establishment, chugging a beer and beating up his boss on the way to the ring. I think these two would have had a great match as well because of the contrast in styles. We know Hulk Hogan, a little bit of a bruiser, he's kind of a brawler in his own right, the 80s style, and has a lot of strength to him. But Austin, with that pure resiliency, as well as his brawling style, I think could have complemented each other, probably like in a no DQ match. I don't see these guys having a standard one-on-one bout, but like in a no DQ setting, I really think these two could have capitalized and made some money together. At number 2, we have a dream match that really could have happened in 2015, could have happened in the early 2000s, could have happened in the 90s if The Undertaker would have jumped, but of course, I'm talking about The Undertaker versus Sting. two characters, two gimmicks that are among the best in pro wrestling history, have their similarities, but they also have their differences. The Undertaker, the face of the WWE in the 90s, and Sting, the face of WCW in the 90s in his own right. I think that these two, not only the build, the match, you take these two and put them in the ring together. I think the most opportune time that this could have happened was probably in 2005-ish. There was reports and rumors that Sting was considering signing with the WWE in 2005. This was when The Undertaker was becoming more of like an MMA style type of fighter. Sting could still go in the ring. That matchup would have been fantastic. We did have an opportunity though in WrestleMania 31 in 2015 when Sting actually appeared to fight Triple H in a one-on-one match. The Undertaker had a match against Bray Wyatt. That probably was our best bet to have the match occur, but by then I don't know if both guys could go in the way that we would expect. But just to have these two in the ring, it's never been done before. We've never had these two in those iterations of their characters in the ring against one another. The darkness that is The Undertaker versus just the brood of Sting, I think really would have captivated audiences and really set in motion for what would have been a cataclysmic moment in professional wrestling. Being that this is my personal list, at number one, I have two of my all-time favorites, Eddie Guerrero versus Shawn Michaels. Now, if you're not new to professional wrestling, you know about the rumors that WrestleMania 22 was supposed to have Eddie Guerrero versus Shawn Michaels in an interpromotional dream match. I think these two really would have complemented each other. They have similar styles, not only in high flying but in technical wrestling. Some people, like Bruce Pritchard, would go as so far as to say that Eddie Guerrero was the Hispanic version of Shawn Michaels, or Shawn Michaels was the American version of Eddie Guerrero. I think their stories, not only in terms of pro wrestling, but outside of the ring, really are parallel to one another. Two had their own personal battles and led them back to the ring and succeed and build a legacy that, again, a lot of fans, a lot of pro wrestlers in their own right look at as two of the all-time greats. It's a shame that we weren't able to get this matchup due to the untimely death of Eddie Guerrero, but I have no doubt in my mind that had you given these guys the proper build and the proper amount of time in the ring, it surely would have been match of the year. And hey, those are 5 of my personal dream matches. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, comment down below what is your all-time favorite dream match of professional wrestling. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can catch videos like these on a weekly basis. Of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you guys for stopping by and hanging out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.